So today we're going to be focusing on factoring trinomials when a equals 1. How to factor trinomials, it has to be in this form. So factor ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, in this case, our a value is going to be equal to 1. So we're going to find the factors of ax squared first. Then we're going to find the factors of c. So factors, remember, are two numbers that are multiplied together. And then for step 3, we're going to distribute the outside and inside to see if they add up to your bx value, which is their middle term. And this is the FOIL method. So we're going to take care of, when we find the factors of A and we find the factors of C, we're going to take care of the first and the last of the FOIL method. What we're going to do is use the outer and inner methods to see if they add up to the middle terms. What you'll notice too is that this is the answer we got when we used the FOIL method. Now what we're going to do is go backwards and we're going to find our two binomials. So first what we're going to do is we're going to find the factors of x squared. So that's x times x. We're going to find the factors of 8. So that's 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. Okay. Now what we have to do is we have to figure out, okay, how can we find these two factors to add up to 6x? So I'm going to set up my two binomials with the x in the first term. Because if you think about if I distribute for first in the FOIL, I get x and x. X times x gives me x squared. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take two factors from here that I think are going to add up to 6. So that's going to be 2 and 4. And if I do 2 times 4, that gives me 8, which is the last part of the FOIL method. And then I have to think about, okay, did they have to be a positive 2 and a positive 4, or a negative 2 and a negative 4? Because they have to multiply to get me a positive 8. So in this case, I'm going to do a plus 2 and a plus 4. I'm going to check by multiplying the outside. So that's going to be 4x. Adding it to the inside, which is 2x, and I end up with 6x, so I'm good to go. My final answer is going to be x plus 2 times x plus 4. So what I did is I just factored a trinomial with the a value equal to 1. Now we're going to use that similar method for number 2. We're going to find all our factors of x squared, so that's x times x. We're going to find all our factors of 12. So that's 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So now I have to think to myself, how can I get 13x with these numbers? It has to be either two positive or two negative values because it's a plus 12 and I'm multiplying them. This case, I'm probably going to stick with two positive numbers because I see that I have a positive 13 here. And I'm thinking, okay, which one of these factors is going to add up to 13? So I'm going to set up my binomials. So I have the x in the first term of each binomial. I'm then going to look and see, okay, which one of these add up to 13? That's going to be 1 and 12. So I'm going to put 1 and 12 here. It doesn't matter if you put 12 here or 1 here. It doesn't matter. The order doesn't matter. It just has to make sure that it adds up to 13. I'm going to use a positive 1 and a positive 12 because 1 times 12 is 12. And x times x is x squared, so I'm good to go with the first and the last of the FOIL. So now I'm going to use the outside, the outer, and the inner. So I'm going to do outer, which is 12x, plus inner, which is 1x, and that's going to give me 13x. So that does give me my b value, so this would be my final answer. So x plus 1 times x plus 12. Okay, my next one, number 3, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find my factors of x squared, which is x times x. I'm going to find my factors of 18, so 1 and 8, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. So I have to be careful here because this gives me a negative 18. So that means that one of these values has to be negative because a positive times a negative gives me a negative. I then have to find out how can I get it to add to a negative 3, which is in the middle. Now, the one that's probably going to get me the closest is 3 and 6. So I'm going to put 3 here and 6 here. Now I have to be careful because I have to think about, okay, how can, if I multiply by the outside term and multiply by the inside term, am I going to get -3? So in this case, I would have to make this negative because that would be -6x, and this positive to get me a -3x in the middle. So for that, that would be my final answer. It would be x plus 3 times x minus 6. My next example, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find all my values. So I have to find x times x. That's x squared's factors. 36 is going to be 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, and 6 times 6. So now I have to think to myself, okay, how can I get a -15? So most likely what probably is going to happen if you have this negative term in the middle, you're probably going to have both of these equal a negative number, because a negative times a negative will give you a positive 36. And in this case, the one that's going to get me closest or going to add up to 15 is probably this 3 and 12. So let me try to see if it works. So I put the x in the front terms, and then I'm going to put 12 and 3. Now, if I multiply the outside, if I put a negative, I would get -3x. I add it to the inside, which is going to be a -12x. That does equal -15x, so I did get the correct answer. So my final answer would be x minus 12 times x minus 3. My last example is going to be x squared minus 11x plus 30. So I'm going to find my factors of x squared, which is x times x. I'm going to now find my factors of 30. So that's 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. So I have to think about, I have a negative value here. So they have to add up to a -11. They have to multiply to get you 30. So I have x, and I'm going to look at my terms, or my factors, to see how can I get -11. 5 and 6 is going to work, so I'm going to put a 5 and a 6. I have to get a -11, so I'm going to make these both negative, because -6x plus a -5x is going to get me a -11x. So I'm good to go. So my final answer is x minus 5 times x minus 6.